critique of Apple's corporate practices.
Exactly. What are the big concerns here?
It's definitely one specific critical angle, but important for understanding the conversation around Apple.
First up, this idea that Apple's innovation is, well, maybe overblown. An illusion, even.
And things like the tetraprism zoom claims, Android phones had similar tech years ago.
Right. And the dynamic island. They frame it as just a sort of clever distraction rather than a game changer.
The core argument seems to be it's the same basic phone each year, just, maybe a new color and always a higher price tag.
It taps into that feeling some people have, doesn't it? Like, is this really new?
It really highlights this tension between perceived innovation, heavily marketed, and actual technological leaps. Are small tweaks revolutionary? This critique says no.
Okay, then they move on to what they call unnecessary technology.
Yeah, features most users supposedly don't need.
Like the LiDAR scanner you mentioned, or huge storage options, ProRes Log video, which, let's be honest, is super niche, right, for pro video editors?
Exactly. The argument is that Apple's marketing is so good, it convinces you you're buying these advanced tools, but really, you're buying status.
You're buying the idea of being cutting edge, not necessarily the practical use.
Precisely. It questions the motivation behind the purchase need versus brand appeal. This source lands firmly on the side of brand appeal driving sales.
Then there's the criticism about Apple being, well, self-centered, prioritizing its own interests, like its stock price, over user needs.
The examples given are things like dropping the headphone jack, resisting universal charging standards for a long time.
And the lack of easy compatibility with non-Apple devices, the critique labels this isolation and control.
It's positioning Apple's famous closed ecosystem not as a benefit for users within it, but as a strategy to prevent users from easily leaving or using other tech. A walled garden, essentially.
Which leads directly to the next point, this idea that Apple milks its customers.
How so, according to the critique?
Well, things like selling chargers separately now, pushing eSIM, which can make switching trickier in some ways, the whole iCloud Plus subscription model.
Okay, so framing basic necessities or simple upgrades as premium add-ons you have to pay extra for.
Yeah, or restricting device access unless you pay more. The argument is it's about squeezing out maximum value, or rather, maximum profit from each user.
It paints a picture of constant extraction rather than providing full value up front.
And that brings us to the big analogy. The ecosystem as a prison.
Ooh, strong words.
Very. The idea is that the seamlessness you experience if you have all Apple products isn't really convenience, it's a trap.
Because it forces you to stay within their walls.
Right. Buy an iPhone, then you need an Apple Watch because it won't work properly with Android. AirDrop only works with Apple. iMessage features are limited outside. They call it corporate hostage-taking.
That definitely frames the concept of vendor lock-in in a very negative light. The convenience factor makes switching platforms difficult, which limits consumer choice.
So, wrapping it all up, the critique's overall assessment is pretty harsh, isn't it?
It definitely doesn't pull punches.
They basically say Apple is a designer brand disguised as tech innovation, thriving on vanity, not value.
And there's a warning in there too, right?
Yeah, a warning against digital enslavement for people who buy into the whole system.
Oh, wow. So it's a powerful, critical perspective. It really forces you to think about the trade-offs involved with such an integrated, brand-heavy approach to technology.
Absolutely. It emphasizes the potential downsides that maybe get overlooked sometimes.
It prompts some hard questions about why we choose the tech we do.
Yeah. It does. So the final thought we want to leave you with is this. When you look at your own tech choices, are they driven purely by need? Or how much does the brand, the image, play a role?
And maybe think about the real cost, not just in money, but in flexibility, of being deeply embedded in one single company's ecosystem.
Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.